Have we hit 9 o'clock yet? Yeah. Nine o'clock?
Yep.
Okay, everybody, if everybody's ready, we'll get started with our public meeting, board meeting of January 25th. Start time 9 a.m. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to those who are on virtually. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we'll start with our trustee, Trish will do our land acknowledgement. Start us off.
I acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis, traditional land of many Indigenous people for countless generations, including the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Michelle First Nations. This is land I am now grateful to call home. I believe it is our responsibility to respect, care for, and share the land that supports us, to work with nature to sustain its inhabitants, people, animals, and plant life, and to preserve its physical beauty.
Thank you. Any additions or deletions to today's agenda? If none, I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Tasha? All those in favor? Thank you. Appointments. We have no appointments today. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of December 21st, 2022. Stacy, all those in favor? Thank you. And presentations. We have a presentation from our financial services today. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lynn Chaston. I'm the Director of Financial Services, and we house ourselves upstairs. And so in this building, if you actually go up the stairs at the end, people can come visit us. We're open anytime. We don't get many visitors. Okay, so my department currently has a team of 12 staff, including myself, 6 of them who work in central office upstairs, and 6 who work outside at the school levels. We have three financial analysts. Brad is our senior financial analyst, and I just want to give him a shout out because he just received his CPA, his Chartered Professional Accounting designation last month. So yay for him, because that's a long stretch and a lot of work. And he's actually our project accountant and our capital accountant. So that's his main focus is. Alongside him are Peggy and Rebecca. There are other financial analysts. Peggy is our lead for day-to-day operations, assisting our accounts payable technician, Roxy, and our accounts receivable technician, Maddie. All of those 3 staff members are relatively new to the district. They've been here less than 6 months, so they're doing a wonderful job. Peggy is leading our day-to-day operations. Rebecca is focused on assisting the school level and is leading our 6 business managers who work out at the schools. They work directly with the principals. All our business managers have at least 2-year accounting experience and a diploma. They can assist principals and school staff with any financial matters. They each have a set of schools they work with, so they get to know the principals and the needs of the individual schools. As a mission statement, the financial team is a dedicated group striving to provide excellent financial management support to the division. We work to ensure that students and staff have the resources they need to succeed. We are committed to provide accurate and timely financial information, as well as delivering excellent customer service. Our ultimate goal is to enable our division to continuously improve, ensuring that students and staff have the resources they need to succeed. On our financial services side, our day-to-day activities, we work in processing all the division's accounts payables and receivables for internal and external customers. We're tracking budgets and capital items, bank reconciliations and maintenance, developing and modifying financial programs, approving payroll and financial planning, and assisting staff throughout the district with any financial questions. At the school level, the business managers are responsible for collection and recording of all the school fees, coding, processing all the accounts payable, as well as assisting principals with their budgets and any other financial matters that come up. They also talk to parents sometimes regarding school fees. Our department in general is also responsible for internal, external financial reporting. These include items like the financial statements, the monthly board reports, the Alberta Education Financial Report, the monthly one, which no one here will see, the annual Alberta Government Year-End Financial Reports, the Alberta Education Budget Statements, and the federal annual charity return, as long as any other ones that come up that the government has requested. Some of the challenges we face in our some of the challenges financial services has is related to the pressures we have for deadlines and analysis. A lot of this is online access. Sorry, I think that was your page. Just gonna jump to these notes. So a lot of our challenges are constantly increasing, which puts pressure on to meet all our deadlines. The team is currently working on updating our resources and tools to become more efficient. How we both execute our tasks and with internal, external customers is very important to us. We're working on increasing the information we have on that so we can provide better information and documentations for the school, so that hopefully alleviates some of these challenges and our workload. Financial services developing more training and reference materials in Sturgeon Public to better understand our requirements. Receiving timely and proper documentation for backup is what we're striving to do. This will include, we're right now producing a P-card manual for all our staffs. Everyone who has a Visa purchasing card will know exactly what we need from our end, like what type of receipts, what type of things, the timelines that we have. So there's no surprises at the school level. So hopefully it'll better smooth out the organization and the systems. Most of our financial policies, procedures, and guidelines are developed by the government standards and our audit controls. We are working with staff to overcome our limitations in meeting our audit requirements, internal controls, and compliance. This is a very challenging one because a lot of the things we ask for in our department are out of our control, from higher levels. Some of them are CRA, they're federal government, they're provincial government, they're standard audit controls. So this is a very challenge because teachers are teachers and they're trained as teachers, and we're accountants and we're trained as accountants. So we have to find a happy working relationship so they understand why we're asking things. So we're trying to be more clear every time we ask for something from now on, that why we're asking. So they're not thinking we're just, oh, they want us to do more work, so they understand. So hopefully that will really, really help our current situation and we can be a happy team. As for our current and future, our goal is to support the school-based staff to decrease the time they spend on their financial things, and they can focus more time on their students. So that's our main goal here. So some of the things we've incorporated recently, we've employed qualified business managers to assist the principals. And this really increases our business managers' knowledge because they actually have education in the backgrounds. So they can give them more timely answers. They can give them more informed answers. And it really helps the principals we're hoping out. And the principals seem like they're very happy with our latest round. And so it seems to be working well. There's always room for improvement though. We provide financial reports, new financial reports to the principal every month so they can get a clearer picture of their of their financials. Within this report, we've actually added things like what's not posted yet. Our Visa cards, for example, cannot be posted till the end of the month, till the end of the Visa cycle. We don't get them from Visa. They only do a monthly cycle. So what we do in this report is we add a line now. If we know the business managers go through and see what outstanding ones, and they add it to those reports so they can get a more timely information. And we're enhancing accounts payable as well. And we've just enhanced that with the new invoice entry web. And that allows the principals to be able to reject them or accept them immediately. And as soon as they do that, the checks get approved in accounts payable, it goes to a batch, and so they can get paid in that same week. So we're really trying to speed up that process. Our business managers are the ones who enter them, so they don't take the time up of the school staff as well. Some of our future projects that we're working on and the current things is again, the invoice entry web, but we want to move that down to central office staff as well. And facilities has just started. So we're just moving it in slowly to all departments in the district because it does really speed up our ability to process payments. And then it, of course, when you process payments, it shows up on their financials, so it's more timely fashion. Our purchasing card program updates, we're increasing the ease of our staff by having the ability to scan related documents and invoices for principals as well to approve online. So again, it's the same process. If we can move things more online and more consistent in the same process, that will really help, I think, just smooth out the processes around here. And we can also have the ability to scan in documents just like accounts payable. So if anyone wants to look at a invoice they've paid or something they purchased with their credit card, they will also be able to pull up that documentation as well from their desk. We're updating the principal's financial dashboard to give the principals again more timely information so they can just go on their dashboard and hit the button and it's going to be an automatic report and they can see their financials as of that moment, everything that's entered. So hopefully they'll like that. We're enhancing electronic document access. So we're scanning in and making our documents available. So if there's been an adjustment to their account, they will also be able to click into that and see what that adjustment was. Especially as we end up doing them, a lot of them upstairs, so they don't know, they don't see these things, therefore they can look at them. And then it might help both sides because they already know what they have, and we won't be taking quite so many calls and trying to explain it to them. But we're always open for calls, so. And we're trying to improve financial information reporting just for better clarity and readability. So, and that's a quick overview of our financial service team and what we do. Does anyone have any questions?
Stacy.
Stacy Buca, Ward 5. I just want to say thank you for this presentation. We all know that financial services exists and does a huge job, but I don't know exactly how the breakdown was. In the past year, speaking with principals, being new as a trustee, trying to figure out the ins and outs, I've heard it prior to now that there was a lot of confusion on clarity, right? That understanding of, as of today, where am I at? And so I appreciate the systems that you're putting in place and the business managers being on site and supporting our schools with that, I think is going to save so much time, become much more efficient, and create a better atmosphere for our administrators, our staff, our kids, everything. So I appreciate the work that you've done on kind of streamlining our systems.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
Our next one is our STEAM Academy. How's that working? We have to go get them, or Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. If it could please the board, because of operation transportation, getting the kids here, could we, could yourself find time sometime after 10 o'clock, if that makes sense? That's when we're expecting the kids to be ready to come in.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Just give us a heads up when that's
Thank you.
ready. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go right into reports from senior executive bus contractor agreement. Liliana.
Liliana LeBacon, Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services. For your information, we've included an update on where we are with the bus operators contract. We are in the process of renewing their contracts as their current contracts expires on June 2023. And in that process, there are a few items that we're currently reviewing. Specifically, we're looking at the duration of the future contracts and whether or not to include an opportunity for renewal. Update language on to ensure criminal records are updated every 5 years and how it works. Language to clarify minimum insurance requirements. So in the past, it was confusing what each section of our insurance requirements was intended to cover. So we're updating that information to explain to them our minimum requirements, which means they're not limited to what we require. They can obtain more, but that's what we need in order to operate together. And also in this process, we will do an annual review of Schedule A, which is the schedule of rates and agreement on that. And we'll also add some language to clarify the fuel price contingency program that's led by the government. So that's basically it. We are intending to issue RFPs in February, and we'll give our contractors plenty of time to respond. And then we hope to have signed agreements by the end of May this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Trish?
Marie Elliott, Ward 4. Yeah, it was unfortunate that one of the Alberta Transportation was going to speak last week and they canceled. So just wondering if there's any update from the government on changes from their point of view.
Liliana?
Administration has not been informed of any changes to the funding model or any other changes related to transportation services. We're still waiting for the funding profile to be released at the end of March. What we know and been told informally is that the fuel price contingency is going to continue until as long as the market price is over $1.25. Again, this does not direct how we manage our business, but just telling us what's likely to be available in terms of funding.
Okay, Tasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. Given the confusion that ensued after the last RFP process, do we have any intention of maybe providing one of the RFP sessions that we have in the past?
Liliana?
We continue to provide RFP training on an ongoing basis, so we do offer that at least once a year. There seems to be significant decrease in requirements for training. I believe the last round we only had one contractor that signed up, so we continue to provide them formal and informal support to go through the process.
Thank you. And just to piggyback onto that, I just would like to make sure in this process that the last time they experienced signing a new contract, it was like 10 days and you need to make a decision tomorrow. And I just want to make sure that our process balances that out properly. So Liliana.
Thank you, Chair Dara. Yes, we added a significant amount for them to respond to RFP and then to answer questions. So I believe currently we have a schedule for the RFP process to be discussed at the Transportation Committee upcoming on February 8th, I believe. We allow for 2 months to go through the RFP process, to ask questions, to put them together, to to finalize any other questions that came from the contractors, and we didn't think about it. So we put aside plenty of time and also wanted to finalize the entire process by the end of May. So our contractors have peace of mind that the contract is in place and ready to go as soon as the current one expires.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Stacy?
Stacy Buger, Ward 5. it's just noted that these agreements are being reviewed in collaboration. Are things moving forward in a positive way with our contractors? Because I know that there has been some issue, especially the confusion about how things are getting paid. I'm just hoping to know a little bit more about how they are collaborating on this.
Liliana.
So administration will bring forward some scenarios for analysis and for discussion with the board. And once we have clarity on our side of the business, then it is intended to organize a meeting with all the contractors. So not just the association reps, but all the contractors before we actually release the RFP, just to make sure that there is opportunity to discuss and collaborate on this process going forward.
Any more questions? Thank you, Liliana. Minutes 7.2 Administrative Procedure 241. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information, here is an update to our administrative procedure that outlines or aligns us with the changes Alberta Education has asked of us, both for our annual education results report, and in a moment you'll see the 3-year plan. Most critically on here is that the dates are the annual education results comes out and is presented to the board in the fall. Needs to be approved at this point unless Alberta Education changes their timelines, which they have in November. And then, and any questions on the annual education results, AP?
No, we're good. You're good? Okay, no questions on that. 7.3 Administrative Procedure 242 3-year education plan. Jonathan.
Thank you again, Chair. John, Deputy Superintendent. As I was about to continue, I apologize for that. This AP is also clarifying the information that Alberta Education has asked of us, that the 3-year education plan come before the board for discussion and approval in May. And this is just to align us with that ask from Alberta Education. Prepared to take any questions.
None, and thank you. 7.4 Administrative Procedure 243 School Education Plans and Annual Results Report. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John, Deputy Superintendent. This administrative procedure captures our expectations of schools. We have, because schools are more under a division direction than as divisions, we have determined to keep the education plan and annual results report together. And so schools will be required to build those together in the fall and then bring them to school councils. And that also informs the presentations that come to the board. Prepared to take any questions on the AP 243.
Janine.
Janine Pequin, Ward 1. So we get our 3-year plan in May, and then we kind of not pass that off to the principals, but our principals take those education plans and build their own plans and present those in the fall based on our May 3-year education plan. I'm just trying to get all the ducks in a row and make sure that's the fall down.
Jonathan.
Yes, thank you. That is the intent of allowing our principals to, they're part of setting the division plan as well. They're part of one of the stakeholder groups, but then they have to align their school plans to the approved board education plan. And that gives them some time to assure that their plan in the fall aligns with what is approved by the board in May.
Any other questions? Thank you. 7.5 Administrative Procedure 2521 Independent Student Status. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. This AP is new at a division level, not new in practice for our schools. We have in the past, each principal in each one of our high school locations have engaged in requests from students that can come, and then determining whether the student request can be honored to become an independent student. This AP is in alignment with Alberta Education guidelines for how to define an independent student, aligned with the Education Act, but it is intended here to make sure our practice across our high school campuses are consistent. We're prepared to take any questions as presented as information.
No questions? Thank you. Oh, Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just out of curiosity, more so how this operates in practice. When a student turns 18, do they have to request that their parent or guardian stop receiving communication before that happens? Or is that by default, they turn 18 and they are by statute an independent student and no longer have parents involved? Just out of curiosity, because I know we have a handful of kids that are doing a 4-year, 5-year plans. Thanks.
Jonathan?
Thank you. Excellent question. Our practice, and it is in alignment with the Education Act, that this actually has to be a request by the student. So even though that would be a qualifier and would be part of understanding that process, the student at 18 would have to request and it would have to be reviewed.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. 7.7, Communications Report, January 2023. Oh, did I miss one? Sorry. 7.6, sorry about that. Administrative Procedure 720, Teacher Staffing, Certification and Placement. Lisa?
Lisa Lacroix, Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. AP 720 Teacher Staffing Certification and Placement. What we have now attached the process as an appendix if a teacher would like to object to their transfer.
Questions? Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. So on an annual basis, do we have many transfers, and of those, are there many objections to them?
Lisa?
The last time I remember a transfer that was not a requested transfer was 6 years ago. So it's not very often that we have transfers that people have not requested.
Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just on the track changes document, there's quite a few changes. It appears it's mainly wording and language use. Is that just aligning to some other document? Is that where that's coming from? And is this going to have any implications as far as collective agreements, anything like that?
Lisa?
No, most of the changes were through the teacher certification process. So we hadn't reviewed that, and it is in alignment with Alberta Education. And no, there's nothing that would affect the collective agreement in there.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Now we'll go to 7.7, Communications Report, January 2023. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Shared for your information is a capture of some of the work that Communications has done over the past month. We did bring this forward last month, but I want to encourage all trustees as they go into school councils to encourage their parents to subscribe to the newsletter. It is new for us and does an excellent job, in my opinion, of capturing some of the things that are going on around the division and can help our parents see beyond. I know they're engaged with their local school newsletter and their local school information, but it helps them maybe see some of the pieces for the division. So just an encouragement to trustees. You can see some of the exciting sports captured here, and the number of views being captured, or the number of people that are tuning in and watching some of the social media posts, which I think is very encouraging. It's positive for our division. You can see some of the promotion work for our programming here. Pre-K is highlighted. And what you will see over time is Communications is going through some very difficult work getting our we had a new website come in, and it's got lots of good external content in the sense of the way the template came to us, but a lot of the content needs to be refreshed. And I just want to share with the trustees that communications is now really focusing on that, bringing that conversation to schools as well. What on your websites can we help with and partner with to make sure it reflects what we're currently doing? Because at the time, even though it was new and shiny, the content was just migrated from the previous website. And so there is previous website, which is now a couple of years old information. So communications is hard at work on that. And then some of the other things that are a bit behind the scenes that you may not know is on the page that highlights the ads we're putting forward, the billboards. Hopefully it's not behind the scenes. Hopefully you're starting to see some billboard work. And then captured here, of course, is the school websites and the brochures are also being updated. So this is just a capture. I think then we also highlight at the time this is built, which is always a week to get it to your packages. So, but this captures some of the places we've been in the media. And then as we look forward to February, these are some of the events that we are encouraging our division and our schools to ensure we're engaging with. Prepared to take any questions about this report.
Tasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. It's not a question, it's more of a comment. So I saw the billboard for Nemeo's Oak program, and something hit me when I saw it because I had no idea it was going to be there until I drove by it and saw it. And then I'm like, that's my school. So my point is, it's not just about advertising the programs, it's about making the community feel that they have a place to belong. And I was actually really taken by that. So I just wanted to share that. That's all.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
I would just like to add, just so trustees are aware, and so as you know, we do have a Berger software that looks at our capture rates. And so we've talked about that before. So as you know, for many of our communities, if there's no other competitors, that we're often capturing up around 95%. And so in the decision for when we're looking at putting up any type of external advertising, that is what was because right now I'm the Berger person, I'm that data. So that data was provided to communications. So there was a strategic plan, just so you are aware, to look at capture rates, because we want to make sure our dollars are spent intentionally when we are getting into our registration blitz starts very quickly here. And so it's fantastic. And so thank you, Trustee Otway McClay, for feeling that, because we went by capture rates. And when we have a lot of competition, it is important that we do get a visual out there so people are driving by it in other ways. So we're hitting it multi-pronged. But just so you know, we are using data to make decisions on that. So we are ensuring that the dollars are being spent wisely and have the most impact.
Thank you. Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Thank you for that, John. I was going to ask, how are we deciding billboards are not inexpensive, and does every school get one? Is it a rotation, or like you said, based on the data? So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just a final comment. I really like where we're heading with all this. I'm really quite impressed. Getting out those good things that are happening in our schools and getting out the public. And I know at our parent council was well accepted, and I heard some positives there too about it. So thank you for all the hard work being done on that. 7.8 monthly financial report. Liliana.
Liliana Levicont, Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services. Included in your package is the monthly financial report for December. That as of December 31st, so that's 1/3 of our school year. Well, the calendar year, not the calendar, the fiscal year, I'm sorry. So we expect to be at about 33% of our expenses. You'll see that we continue to work on improving the financial presentation of the results, so they provide more meaningful information. So in this report, we've actually added 2 more columns. The first one is centralized instructional supports, and that's basically adding all the central office type of activities that we do for the instruction world. And that's not the system administration, it's just focused directly on the school-based activities. And the other column that's added to the report is on the far right hand. side, and that's non-budgeted additional grants. As you know, we constantly receive new grants. And we found that these new grants actually distort our ability to provide comprehensive information. So we wanted to isolate those, what money we received and how they are spent throughout the year. As the announcements sometimes comes late in the year, and sometimes we already have budgeted activities related to that. We have to refocus ourselves how we spend the resources. So for improved information, financial reporting to you, we've decided to go this way. But we're also open for your input if you have any other recommendations on how to improve this process. As we continue to work through this, we are drilling down through the information from different ways. So you can expect every month to add more information, more meaningful explanations for you to have a look and ask us questions. So as of December, we did receive 631,000 in new grants, which actually contributed to our division surplus as of December of 898,000. So a lot of that variance is due to the new grants. The division also spent 199,000 on capital equipment using operating dollars. So I know I'm always getting a little bit too technical in this presentation, but when we take operational dollars and spend them on capital, they're not actually showing on our capital, on our operating statement. So you'll see we've introduced a new line in the report where it subtracts that line just to show how much operating dollars are actually remaining for the end of the year. The capital spending are offsetting an unrestricted surplus, so it does reduce that balance, but it's just flowing differently through our financial statements. We also have collection of school and transportation fees happening at the beginning of the year in most cases. So that shows a spike of fees at the beginning, and that shows an accelerated revenue contribution to our operating results that we expect to smooth out or normalize before the end of the school year. Furthermore, we have higher than budgeted interest revenue on our deposit accounts. So we budgeted for 100,000. So far, we have 320,000. So we expect that to continue to escalate. So as a division, we're looking on how to better allocate those funds to service all areas. In the past, we've allocated this interest revenue towards our contracted and legal services, just because it's been an item of contemplation for our division for many years. But as we sort out some of our legal issues, we expect to reshuffle that source of funding to other areas. So when excluding the above noted variances, we would have had a deficit of 529. So if we exclude everything that I just noted, our operating results would be in a deficit position of 529,000, which still puts us behind what we should be at this time of the year, which is 795,000. That means that we have a temporary gap. Our division is fully aware of it, and we're doing everything we can to redistribute resources. So we are tracking against our budget numbers, which are a deficit position. Now, when we look at the details, when comparing the revenues and expenses by program, for pre-K to 12, both expenses and revenues are tracking against budget very closely, as well as centralized services. Both revenues and expenses are tracking close to budget. Now, we already know we have few gaps within centralized instructional services, but overall, they're tracking close to budget. So next month, you'll have better analysis on instructional centralized instructional support. For operations and maintenance, revenues include additional unbudgeted Alberta education funding to cover our lease costs for the Legal Public School. So they gave us 85,000. To date, we spent 25,000 as we pay them monthly to our landlord. Expenses include payments of 76,000 for the Sturgeon County flood. So we did receive the funding in the previous school year. However, the invoices were forwarded to us by the flood mitigation team later in the year, so we just paid them this year. So that creates a misalignment of that. So we just spent 176,000 on that. Other expenses are seasonally high, such as snow removal and utilities. They're not yet paid, but we expect to see the effect of those in the next couple of months. As well, we have a large number of planned maintenance projects scheduled for the spring break and mostly the summer break. And we expect that any variances will be caught up in operations and maintenance before the end of the year. Transportation services, the revenue is higher than budgeted, mainly because transportation fees are again collected at the beginning of the year. And also we received, I know it's a net zero, but revenues is also tracking higher because we received the fuel price contingency. So that affects the revenue side of the transportation services. When we look at the expenses, they are lower than expected because we had one contractor that didn't process the invoices for the whole 4 months. We are now happy to report that has been remediated, but you'll see the result of that in the January's report. Other things, fuel subsidy is also affecting the expenses, tracking them a little bit higher than anticipated. But again, net zero effect as the money we receive, we dole out to our contractors. System administration revenue is higher than budgeted due to additional interest earned on deposit accounts, as noted earlier, and the expenses are lower than expected due to the timing of expenses in contracted services and legal support that we get throughout the year. In external services, both revenues, so yes, there's a typo here, revenues and expenses are lower than budgeted due to budgeting one additional secondment that didn't take place. For the non-budgeted additional grants, expenditures of these funds are starting to be spent as planning is completed, and we do expect some of the adjustments where we move expenses from our normal instructional expenses to be allocated to these grants directly. So we do have a lot of planning in the background around this, and they'll start to show a depletion. And with that, I am concluding the monthly financial report, and we're opening for questions.
Thank you. Questions? Tasha?
Tasha Otway, Macleay, Ward 6. Comment. Thank you for the additional columns. It actually, it's like, now I have visual proof that we're not spending our money, but we're getting it off cycle. So that makes it so much easier. So I just want to say thank you to you for that.
Stacy?
Stacey Bucco, Ward 5. Similar line of comment is that instructional centralized supports. I appreciate the transparency of it was all K-12 education. And when I looked at this, I was like, what? Why aren't we spending it on the kids? And I'm like, wait, we are spending it on the kids, but it's really quite clear now how we are making sure that that's done. And I think for transparency, that's really important, that it doesn't look like, oh, here's just 75% of the pie that's going to K-12 education. And it's quite ambiguous when it's like that. So I appreciate both columns being kind of separated out so that we can actually discuss that and see easier when there's a problem. Thanks.
Thank you. Liliana.
Thank you, trustee Buga. I just want to clarify, I didn't mention it in my speaking notes, but it's there in the memo, what's included in the instructional centralized support. So it's everything that we're doing for schools. Again, just would like to clarify that. So it's information technology that we use in school, education planning, community engagement, curriculum development, specialized learning supports, program unit funding, human resources that support schools, so not system administration, student health and wellness, divisional PD and divisional principal, and evergreening of equipment in schools. So it's all supporting our schools. I just want to make sure that it's said and heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Janine?
Janine Peckman, Ward 1, not a question, more of a comment as somebody who struggles with budgets at the best of times. I appreciate the more breakdown because it is so much easier for me to wrap my head around. So I know you say you get excessive in your explanations. I appreciate it because I need the Cole's Notes version of things so I can understand it. So I appreciate your budget reports and all of the information so I can wrap my head around it.
Thank you. Cindy?
Cindy Griggs, Ward 2. One thing that you said, Liliana, was that a bus contractor didn't invoice for 4 months. Was there an error in judgment? Like, I'm just wondering what happened there.
Liliana?
It wasn't an error in judgment. We did quote the contractor numerous times to produce their invoice. And the last time we told them that, well, first of all, they responded to us that they'll get around to it and they just didn't have time, or so there were promises but not followed through. And last time we've contacted the contractor, we said we either have to pay the invoice based on our records or get a letter of reprimand on the file, which is a bit drastic, but we wanted to be up to date with everything. So it's not a miscommunication, it's failing to follow through.
That's very interesting to me, but anyways, we'll deal with that a little further in the future. Any other questions? I have one. At our parent council meeting, they're going to take some of their money and get some professional PD that's offered. But they asked me how do they pay for it? Do they charge? Like, I couldn't remember that process. Jonathan, do you have that?
Thank you, John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. And it's interesting the comment that you brought forward, Chair, because I have just reminded principals that there are 2 ways we can support our school council groups. One, they can absolutely purchase on their own, buy on their own, give receipts, submit, and we will reimburse. Or, and I've encouraged this direction, that principals use their school card, because then we can just recode internally. And that way our parents aren't out cash. And it's just, in my opinion, I think that's a better way to go. So I have just this last week reminded principals that they could encourage that.
Okay, great. I actually suggested both of those ideas and we'll make it happen, but I just want to try to get our official process there. So, okay, thank you. Anything else on that? Thank you, Liliana, for that presentation. .9 monthly IT report. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for the board's information is the monthly IT report. I would draw attention to the memo component that we are excited to have a full complement of system analysts again. We have hired a new person that just joined us. Just met them last week, and so now we have a new director, and he now has a new system analyst working with him. But that brings us back to the same number, the same support team that we had before. One of the focuses of the work right now that the team and I'm involved with, and also other parts of Ed Services are involved with, as I need to think further, is a clearer definition of what technology will be present in each of our classrooms or specialized spaces in our schools. So while we have, initiatives and good conversation, and most of us are now pretty close to the same, we actually want to have, like, okay, if you're in grade 2, this is the technology that will be supported within your school. If you're in grade 5, this is the technology that's supported within your school, regardless of the school, anywhere in the division. This is early work. It's actually big work. So, we've gone to learning coaches. We're going to go to principals. There's a focus group. So this is not going to be done in a short amount of time, but I'm very encouraged that Technology Services has taken this on to get, I think, a clear picture of what's going to be in any one of our schools. Doesn't matter whether you're Camilla, Redwater, Namao, we can expect this type. Now, there needs to be, I just want to say, there needs to be an element of choice so that the instructors are choosing exactly what's in there, but there should be a better starting point, a clarity of what we have. So I just don't want to set up the wrong into. And then looking at the report itself, I would say we are also wondering what information would be more meaningful for this table to be considering. You'll know at the beginning of the year we added the print, and I think that was a good idea to see what schools are engaged. Here we've added the color versus black and white. But I think there are some elements of this report that maybe are less meaningful at this table. And so we are, as I heard my colleague is doing with finance, looking at different elements. So we're talking about what could we bring that would be useful for this table to be considering on a monthly basis. Prepared to take any questions on this report, or?
Cindy?
I actually really like your report, John. I think it brings the schools to our level. I did find some errors in it though with the printer group with the total printed pages. I'm not totally understanding it because there's BA, there's Bon Accord, and Trustee Buga pointed out Four Winds isn't on there. So I think there's an error in that, which errors happen. Another thing I wanted to bring to the table is that Chair Dwyer has brought up about the internet child exploitation that has been doing presentations around our division. That is quite mind-blowing to listen to what is actually going on the internet. How are we monitoring what our students are doing when they're using our internet platform? Because it was brought up at a parent meeting last night that we did have some grade 4 students that were actually on a chat room talking to somebody from the UK. So what kind of security levels do we have in our division?
Jonathan?
Thank you. First, apologies. It's certainly mine to proof this information, and I missed the errors here on the printing. So I will endeavor to be clear on that information in the future. Second, it's an excellent question. The way I share this with principals and then through them also with our teaching staff, the absolute best, I have been in tech and in education for a long time. The best supervision that we have is active and it's educational focused. So by that, I mean presence of teachers, engagement of teachers with when and how devices are used, physical circulation, what's on screens, those kinds of things are the best. And then with that is the education of young people. This is unacceptable. This is acceptable. This is those kinds of things. That is absolutely the best. Layered with that, we do have firewall protections that, and I've just recently gone through this with our principals, that have category filtering. So it's because there are millions of sites. It's not just one or two. There are many, many things on the internet that we do not want in our schools that have no educational value, that would only bring harm. And so, a category of pornography, a category of gambling, a category of, certain things, those categories are blocked when you're on our network. Not blocked when you switch to like as kids get older and they have their own personal devices, they just turn off the Wi-Fi. It's not blocked. So there are ways around that. We have now, as a group of principals, just last Wednesday, decided to add some hard blocks for some platforms that just continue to be a challenge for us to monitor. I'm coming all around to the grade 4. But right now, those platforms would be things like Snapchat or Discord. again, young people can get around them by switching to their data. But conversation from people in school said, yeah, but the vast majority of our young people, maybe they don't have enough data or their parents have restricted their data or whatever, are on our network. So we want some hard blocks for the top. And we went through about 15 sites and had a, like, is this blocked everywhere? Is it blocked just 7.9? Is it blocked just K4? That kind of thing. And so principals have now built a list. It hasn't been activated yet. That's with tech services now to make happen. But coming back to the comment about, I don't know which chat room they were in, there will always be an element that we need to have active supervision with teachers and education for kids, because like I have a lived experience that was close to my personal family where someone got into a real problem on Clash of Clans, which on the surface, I mean, that's no educational value, but I'm just saying many families might have Clash of Clans. That's not Discord or whatever. Like it seems innocuous, and it ended up being very much not innocuous. It was a problem that did bring in the RCMP, and it was very painful. So where I'm going with this is we have broad blocks. We are now going to, they're not in place yet, but some specific on some of the biggest challenges that we have. But I bring it back to our continued desire to have our teachers engaged with what our kids doing right now, eyes on, partner beside, and telling our young people this is how we should be online.
Tasha, did you still have a question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The students are here, so we're going to take about a 5-minute break and we'll let them get set up, and then we'll have their presentation. So we're back in 5 minutes. Everybody online, we're just going to have our students from our presentation section set up here. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna get started again. I'll bring it back into order. We're gonna have a presentation from our Four Winds Public School STEAM Academy. And first of all, I'd like to welcome you guys here. Thank you for coming today. You've got some really interested people here. We're all very interested in this STEAM and excited about the program, and we're excited about you coming today and showing us a little bit about what you're up to. So welcome, and I'm not sure who's gonna do introductions, or you ready to go? We're ready to go. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Clara. We are Four Winds Public Schools STEAM Academy. These are my friends.
Katie? I'm Lexi.
We have been in STEAM since the beginning, and we are super excited to share our experience with you.
So people that are in person today have sticky notes with them. And just to pull your attention towards those sticky notes, I'd like you guys to write down any words that come to mind when you think of STEAM. Any words at all. It can be as many or as little as you want. Oh. And as soon as you're done with those sticky notes, I can take them. So now that you guys have written down your words, don't think there's a place for me to stick them currently, but that's all right. I'll put them up here. And we will get back to these at the end of the presentation.
Before our STEAM Academy was created, it started out as a club at MPS. We had 110 students, and when we moved to the new school, there was a sports and a dance academy. But what about those who wanted to explore more innovative topics? Then became STEAM Academy.
Here's our STEAM promotional video for over the past years. What is STEAM to us? STEAM to us is setting us up to be makers, creators, and innovators. In 2020 to 2021, we had 25 grade 5 and 6 students and 27 in total in all the grades. Now we have 52 students in junior high and 2 teachers, and we are projected to have even more students in the future.
In STEAM Academy, we focus on 4 C's, which are collaboration, community, creativity, and critical thinking. We're very challenge-based. We use real-world applications. We focus on the engineering design process, which includes our engineering notebooks. They're a great place for students to plan, sketch, and just kind of brain dump sometimes. We make portfolios, and we have many leadership opportunities, which include Digital Citizenship Week and Hour of Code Week. They're a great opportunity for us to teach some people how to do stuff like coding.
So these are some of the many activities we do in STEAM Academy. There's things like Genius Hour, carbon dioxide digesters, robotics and coding, and if you look underneath, you can see the progression of the robotics and coding throughout the grades.
These are some sample competitions, such as Skills Canada Exploration Day and Apega Science Olympics. They are challenges against other schools that have STEAM academies in Alberta.
Here are some of our field trip opportunities. We have the University of Alberta, or U of A. We have the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, NAIT. We went to Arcadium back in November. We have Game Over. We have Drumheller, and if we don't do it this year, we will do it next. We have Tornado Hunters, the Shell Canada presentation we did in November, and the Edmonton Valley Zoo.
Coming back to the sticky notes that we had made, just after listening to our presentation, Clara is passing out more sticky notes, and I'm just gonna kind of compare some of the words. So I'll let you guys write down some possible new words, or maybe your words are the exact same. That's all right too. And I will take those sticky notes whenever you guys are finished. Now, coming back to our old words, they were, a lot of them were technology, fun, science, art, cool things, experiments, math, and your new words were creativity, exploration, critical thinking, collaboration, innovative, brainstorming, knowledge, tools, sharing information. Just kind of cool comparison, I think. Here are some of the words that we thought of. Challenges, future, innovation, leadership, excitement, creation, inventions, passions, power, and so many more. And we will show you what we've been working on this month too. I had made, it's not finished yet, but I was going to make a miniature tabletop golf course. So I was gonna into the golf clubs and the little raised areas here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question for you. When you were talking about this Lego robotics here, you talked about coding it. Can you just explain that to me?
I'd say that's a
We all have our.
So there are two ways to code it. You can code it specifically right from the little device, or you can hook it up to a computer. And basically you can use little building blocks to just kind of like add things on, and you can make it do different things like turn faster or slower or different ways. And that's pretty much it.
It did have a Python capability, but with the latest update, they took that away, and so we're just waiting for that.
Dasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. A couple things, actually. First, I wanted to commend you guys on a wonderful presentation. It's not easy to be a junior high student and stand in front of a bunch of people who are trustees and upper admin and superintendents. So just for your knowledge, you guys did wonderfully. You spoke eloquently. You conveyed all kinds of passion and excitement, which I think is the key to education. If you like what you're doing, you're going to do it well. And so I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that with us. It's really important for us as trustees. We govern at a very high level. We don't get into the classrooms very often, but knowing that we've provided resources and direction that allow you guys to excel in the way that you have, it makes this job really worth it, because I think we've all said this before, but you don't become a trustee for the paycheck. You do it because of this. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Tash. Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Great job, you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Amazing. I'm so proud of all of you guys, and I've known you all since you were like in kindergarten. So amazed. But can you tell me a bit about what your academy day looks like? Because I know Four Winds has a lot of academies going on, and there's a lot of shuffling of things. So can you tell me just briefly what your day looks like?
Our day looks like, so we start off in our robotics room and Ms. Defoe explains what we would be doing for today. We spend an hour doing the assigned project, and a lot of it is coding. And then that most of the time, the other hour is dedicated to our passion projects or Genius Hour.
Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. Thank you for your presentation. What would make our STEAM Academy better? How do you think we compare to other schools when you're in competitions? And how do you think you're going to use this information in the future?
So a lot of the time, depending on your job, you actually use STEAM Academy a lot, or just the stuff that we teach at least. So say you were going to become an IT. You would use the STEAM Academy knowledge of coding computers and just learning basic or yeah, basic ways to understand the way that things work, because we actually do that a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I echo what everybody said. It's always great to see some of our students come up and talk about their days and what they're up to. And we definitely support your program and look forward to the future of where this all takes our students on a daily basis and in the future. So thank you. And I actually have a little bit of a gift here. Just a little something. It's no trip or nothing, but. You're good? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I love your robot.
I think I'm gonna ask permission and come spend a day with you one day.
You held your own, so well done.
Yeah, I kind of know what that's like.
Oh, psh.
You hold yourself.
Do I hold myself?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, great presentation. Thank you. We're all back to normal. Okay. We'll go to 7.10, 2022, 2023 Superintendent Discretionary Fund. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So provided. That is provided every month, and there is the summary for each month leading up to now, including any type of additional supports that have come out of the Superintendent Discretionary Fund since the budget was passed last spring. And so you will see the summary every month leading up till now. And so the current update, so December 15th, 2022 to January 19th, 2023, the following additional staffing, FTE and resources has come out of the Superintendent Discretionary Fund dollars. And so at Given School, we added an additional 0.3 teacher FTE, and that was to support an elementary classroom. Just that had some students with complex needs. We were looking for some extra supports there. The school was. And at Cole-Morinville Public, we added 0.5 of a teacher, again, to support some students with some complex needs. And then Landing Trail Schools, the logos 3-4 class had quite a high number, and they also have quite a few students with complex needs. And so for the remainder of the year, to ensure their academic success, we are going to be unsplitting the classroom to ensure the success of the students for the remainder of the year. And again, I'm prepared to respond to any questions.
Any questions on discretionary fund? Tasha.
Tasha Oatway McClay, Ward 6. So just questioning the complex needs classrooms. I guess my question is a part-time teacher enough to alleviate the issues occurring? Or obviously it's better, more supervision, better supervisory capacity, but is that addressing the needs effectively?
Shauna.
And so the 0.3 or 0.5 doesn't necessarily mean that that's a part-time person. It could have been increasing a person that was already in the building. And so what happens is the principal, they know their school best. And so I ask them if they're, as you know, I have monthly principal meetings and very open and transparent with our principals. And when they're struggling, we talk things through. And so this isn't like a unilateral decision. And so they start talking about what the current situation is in their school. And when they have hot spots where they're finding there's some pressures, and I'll use the Logos classroom as a prime example. You do have new curriculum rollout. And so it's getting to the point we thought we were okay, and sometimes new students move in. And so what is asked, I put it back on the principal. They know their school. And so I'll ask them, what is needed? And we look a lot at our core classes, but these would be people that were already in the building that may have been part-time, that the principal said, this is something, because again, we also don't want to disrupt the learning too much in our classes. And so we want to look at how can we best support our kids without being too disruptive. And so they come up with a plan and they propose that, and then we unpack that. And so these were already current people that were in the school that we were able to up their FTE.
Any other questions? Thank you, Shauna. And we'll move into our reports from trustees and standing committees. 8.1 chairs report. I just wanted to report that we've had lots of communication on our whistleblower effect that it had on our division. We had a building and maintenance committee meeting. We had a policy committee meeting. We had the committee of the whole meeting. We had school presentations. We started our school presentations with half of our schools have come and presented what they're up to and what's happening in their school. And we have another group of that on the 30th that would finish off all our schools. We did have a student discipline hearing, which is always not the best thing to that we want to have, but we had one. I personally had a Camilla School Council meeting. I want to talk about that a little bit. With our speaking notes, one of the big subjects in there was transportation. So I talked a lot about transportation and the 2.4 kilometers. And in the River Kabar Camilla area, it's always interesting when you talk advocacy and what you're trying to do to help this situation. And they're already on a bus and want to go down to the legislative grounds. So it was a long discussion and good discussion. And basically they're asking, where can we help you guys? And in advocating for maybe some funding for the inside the 2.4 kilometers for sure. And those type of things. And just on that busing issue, I did have not planned, but we myself and Shane Getson, the MLA for the Camilla School area, met on Saturday and had a long discussion. And the pilot project on insurance is still a go. In fact, he's getting pressure to get it going. And he said he'd call me this week, and I haven't heard from him. So anyways. We're at public board meeting today, and we have a meeting with the town of Morinville this afternoon. We just for everybody's information, we do meet with all our stakeholders in our towns and that are and county is a large piece of our stakeholder group. And today we will be meeting with the town of Morinville to talk about our relationship and where we're at and going forward. And we have that, like I said, one more group of the school presentations and again, administrative meetings and some Rotary meetings for myself. And we'll go, any questions to me on that? We'll start with our trustees and we'll start with Cindy.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. I'm just going to speak on to the highlights of my month. I had a joint use agreement meeting at the town of Bon Accord, and the town of Bon Accord has a solar farm. If not many people probably know this, but they do offer field trips for students to come to the solar farm. So hopefully some of our schools will take advantage of that. Bon Accord Community School and Lillian Schick School councils were great this month and entertaining. And also the ICE presentation that was being held at Bon Accord Community School was very informative, and I hope more schools across the division will do presentations at their schools, because it's so important that we get the word out to parents what students and children are doing at this age.
Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy Buga, Ward 5. Similar to the sentiments that Chair Dwyer had mentioned about parents getting ready to go to support us in whatever way they can for transportation. I met with one of our parents, stakeholders that really is invested and doing the work and finding the information. And so she wanted to chat about some ideas of letter writing and what needs to be included and how do we best advocate. So I'm excited to hear that other parents are jumping on board and willing to support the school division, because this isn't a school division level issue. This is a provincial issue, and I'm glad that message is getting out. So I'm hearing that as well. Four Winds School Council, I will probably hear all about it at their school presentation next week, so I don't want to give away all the good stuff, but I'm super excited. They've got, they were approved for that FINS program as well. We've had a couple schools in the division that are now raising trout from eggs to whatever they're called when they're big, and then they're going to be releasing them. So that's exciting. Once the program is set up, it was a huge application process, and once it's there, it is now an annual thing for our grade 5 students. So that's a really exciting program to see in a couple of our schools in our division. And they've now, Four Winds has had challenges with their learning commons and their library spaces, and being a 5 to 9 school, how to separate that junior high and elementary spaces, as well as French immersion when it comes to library resources. So they've created a separate junior high library. They've done a huge investment into new resources for French immersion and their junior high literature, which is really exciting. And we've got a really big push to better understand how French immersion works in our division coming from Four Winds Parent Council, to make sure that it's being advertised and promoted at the elementary level, to make sure that we continue a strong junior high program right up to grade 12. So a really good focus, and parents in the community are engaged in making sure that French immersion is a robust program that's equal to education everywhere. So I was really excited about the way that the parents are getting involved at Four Winds. The virtual academy and learning centers, we had their parent council, and it was very much a lot of the things that you saw here last week. So I won't reiterate what they went through, and I'm really excited. Next week, we're doing the blanket exercise with central office. This will be the 3rd or 4th blanket exercise that I've participated in, and it is different and new and an incredible learning experience whenever you have a chance to participate in something like this. So I'm looking forward to that next week. Thanks.
Just. Sorry.
I apologize. Tomorrow is not next week. It's been a long day.
And just on that transportation thing, I'm glad to hear that. And one of the things our chair of our parent council said that she was going to connect with all the other chairs to see if they could do a combined effort into advocating for that cause. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. The school presentations were, as always, awesome. I really enjoyed them, and looking forward to the next batch on Monday. I had a parent council meeting school council meeting at Sturgeon Com, and not a lot coming out of there, but the exciting news is they are looking at contractors for running the cafeteria. So they see something coming about in the future. At Sturgeon Heights, they are, like all our schools, I think they're looking at hiring consultants or someone to come and give them a presentation with their funding. So I reminded them, make sure you book, because everyone's going to be scrambling at the last minute. It might be hard to get your choice. But they were also wondering, because I brought up that Bon Accord did have the ICE presentation for the parents last week, and they weren't really aware of it, although I know it has been shared on social media and whatnot. So I don't know if there's a way that a parent council chair can email out to the other chairs if their school is planning one, because I think there might be more interest from other schools. I know some of them aren't overly heavily attended, so it might be a good way to share resources there. Another thing that came out of Sturgeon Heights yesterday, they were talking about different interesting programming they're thinking about, and like what we just saw with the STEAM Academy at Four Winds, the STEAM Academy at Sturgeon Heights is very popular and is expanding. It's only 5 and 6 this year, but it's going into junior high next year. And one of the questions was there are waiting lists for these programs, and I know there are limitations on due to staffing and size of class and whatnot, but the parents were hoping that some of our successful programs like this could be expanded so that I don't even know how they choose which students are going to be fortunate enough to be in the program and who are not, but it would be nice if we could, if we see that there is a demand with waiting lists, if we could somehow increase the capacity in some of these programs. I reminded everyone about topics for the upcoming Council of School Councils, but didn't get any specifics yet. So hopefully people are thinking about that. And one thing that I did have this week was I was in communication with a parent earlier this week, and the parent's child is a student in grade 9 who has severe food allergies. And the parent was quite concerned that the school was not addressing the student's needs. And, you know, I can only imagine how stressful that would be to a parent who is worried about, you know, an unsafe location. So at this time, I'd like to thank Mr. Conrad because he did provide me with some excellent resources. And, you know, after reviewing the board policy, and there are things from Alberta Education and Learn Alberta. You know, it's very tricky. I understand that. When I went into parent council, I did have a conversation with the principal because we agreed that improved communication is one important step that we can take. So reminders going out in the monthly newsletter and in the weekly Friday communication, and making sure the groups such as the hot lunch groups and the parent volunteers are all aware of the specific needs. I think that is one thing we can easily do. I requested that the parent email me with very specific details about the allergies and what has been working, what hasn't been working, where the disconnects are. And I requested some strategies that that they have had that have been successful in their previous school and from their medical practitioner. And I haven't received a reply yet, but when I do, I'll share it with our superintendent. So, and I believe the parents did come and speak to Mr. Conrad. So I am hoping that that helped to alleviate their concerns. And also looking forward to my first blanket exercise. That's it for me.
Thank you. Irene?
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. My report is going to be on the website with the meeting, so I'm not going to go through it. I will actually echo what Trish said at my parent council when I reminded them to go to the ICE presentation at Bon Accord. The feedback I got was, this is the first I heard of it, which I found strange because I'd seen it a few places on social media. So I'm not really sure, because I know it was advertised well, in my opinion, by the school and by the division, but I don't know how we can close in that gap a little bit so that I don't know. I leave that to people smarter than I. And then I think a highlight for me in the school presentations, if I reflect on last year to this year, they just seem to be in a better space. They're excited, they're open, happy with their programming. And it was just really heartwarming to see that. So I look forward to next week's presentation of the last group of schools. That's it.
Thank you. Tasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. Specific to my report, I would say that again, thank you to Shauna and the rest of the admin team for the speaking notes. They are incredibly helpful. At Nemeo's Parent Council, we had a very robust discussion about transportation. And what I would say to everybody here is that I suspect it's one of the higher impacted schools in the division. 20 to 25% of the school body is school of choice people who choose Nemeo for one reason or another. So again, I mentioned this, I think, at another meeting, but I'll just say it one more time in public. The constituents that were at the meeting, and granted, they're not all my constituents because obviously 25% of them come from elsewhere, but it was a pretty even split. People who have to pay, people who have to drive, and the common theme was, we'll pay because we chose to be here. If we're allowed to pay to be here, we will. And that came from everybody, even the people who'd be most impacted by any change in funding and or fees. One other thing that was specific to me was I had an opportunity through one of our provincial associations to participate in a day of Indigenous PD. So we got through, there's 21 things you should know. I bet you didn't know about the Indian Act. And we were supposed to cover 10, but got through 5 because that's how much conversation there was about them. That was followed by medicine wheel teaching and a residential school presentation from an elder out of Drayton Valley, which was very enlightening. And puts a lot of context into why we find ourselves here now. So it was really interesting and very eye-opening. And then it prompted me to read the entire 21 Things You Didn't Know About the Indian Act, which is a really good book if anybody hasn't read it. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kasia. Janine?
Janine Pequin, Ward 1. Along with everything else, stuff specific to me was the Redwater School Parent Council. So lots of the high school parents were very concerned about bus cancellation. So I'm really glad that was in our speaking notes because high school students missing a day is sometimes huge. So just to outline the admin practices and the policies was great. I attended TIBA Zone 2-3, which I'll talk about later. Oker Park Parent Council. So they were really talking about playgrounds because our playground is getting old. So to talk about fundraising because it's a couple $100,000 and grant rating and stuff like that. So it might be interesting for all of our parent councils if we could bring in like a grant writing course because we're all begging for money at different levels. So that might be a PD for them to think about for the future. And Oker Park is celebrating their 40th anniversary on February 17th. So they have like a little assembly that ties in with the 100 days of schools. And then they're planning a bigger celebration in June when the weather's nicer and we can be outside and invite people to the school. And then super special to me, I went to the Redwater School Junior High musical theater one evening. And they invited the grade 5s and 6s this year to participate, not in really speaking roles, but as it was Oz, so they were lots of munchkins and whatever else, to listen to these junior high students with a microphone sing in front of a gym full of people blew my mind. They were so brave and courageous and talented. Oh my good heavens, the 2 leads were just all of them. It was just amazing. And I sat there with a smile the whole time and took my little grade 5er with me and she was like, Mom, can you hear them? Can you take a video? And it was just, so they will be doing one every year for the junior highs. And then in spring later in the summer will be the high school's musical theater. And it's just a great program at Redwater School. That was just a delight to go and watch.
Thank you, Janine. Okay. Advocacy Committee.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I appreciate a lot of what has been said around the table with this sharing. I've been taking notes for advocacy because sometimes that's where the best information comes from. So I appreciate that and look forward to discussing some of our challenges at an advocacy level coming up. Stakeholder meetings, our municipal partners, we're meeting this afternoon with the town of Mornville. We've got a date booked with the town of Redwater, and we're looking forward to meeting with Sturgeon County later this year as well. So those invitations have been sent out and meetings have been booked. We did debrief our student advisory committee that was held on the 12th of December, and we are looking at booking a new virtual meeting for the end of February, which hopefully will be followed by another in-person meeting in the spring. This is guided by the request of the students that are part of our student advisory committee. So that's, I'm happy to see administration working to fulfill the requests of those kids, because that's why we're here. We did discuss the Friends of Education Award through ASBA, Alberta School Board Association, and how we can recognize the supporters of our school division and public education in Alberta in the best way. And we talked a little bit about our wording when it comes to transportation, about the word choice, and making sure that our message is being sent out very clearly, as different changes affect different types of riders. And so to how to best use the word choice or remove the word choice from how we're communicating. We did also take a brief look at how Chamber of Commerce is working in all of our communities and the role they play, and how we might be able to use those networks to support our kids going into the workforce, as well as our communities as they try to grow. Any questions about advocacy?
Thank you.
Irene?
Oh, sorry, Irene. Wait, do I turn the other way?
Sorry. I just wanted to, because it made me think, one of the things that came out of some of my parent councils a few times was, because I see that you like for letter writing, they're all for writing. They just don't know how or what, like they want a little direction. So I don't know if.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had brought it forward. It was presented at a Zone 2-3 meeting. One of the school divisions actually has templated letters on their website. So at advocacy, we kind of discussed whether that's the role of the school division to provide templated lobbied letters, as that is not generally our role to be lobbyists. We're here to govern the division itself, but our parents do need support if we're asking them to help us. So that's one thing that advocacy was looking at, is how to best address that and support our parents as they reach out in an effective manner with a similar message across the board. So.
Any other questions? Thank you. Audit, Finance and Human Resources Committee, 8.4.
Okay, we held our meeting on December 21st, and one thing that came out of the MNP audit this fall was that we really should have 2 external people on our audit committee. So to serve as the non-trustee members. And so administration has agreed that they will research all of the requirements to bring to the committee for review, for finding a couple of external members. Also, out of the MNP report, they recommended that the division look into a policy for investing our funds. As we've seen in our financial report, there was quite a discrepancy in what we expected as to what we are actually receiving, and with interest rates going up, we want to make sure that we are getting the best return for our money. So again, thank you to administration. They're going to be doing some research, looking at different things like risk levels and so forth. They will bring that back to the committee for review. We also discussed some of the challenges facing the decision about recruiting and retaining staff. We got an overview on the positions that were posted and recruited due to new roles, leaves, resignations, and transfers, and seems like we have an ongoing challenge with the recruitment of qualified EAs. We looked at our overall work plan and decided things are progressing well. We still have some heavy lifting to do, though, with upcoming things like the budget and evaluations. We discussed school stores and how each school is slightly different in how the stores are run, and also how school council and parent fundraising association, how their scope and interaction is also somewhat different school to school, and how more clarity is probably required in that area. And thanks again to admin who are going to work with our schools and other groups to provide guidance in that area. A little bit of a change. We had tentatively booked to meet our next meeting for February 8th, but that has been confirmed to be on February 22nd at 3 o'clock. So any questions for audit, finance, and human resources?
Liliana?
Thank you. Just commenting on the external parties for the audit committee. Lisa and I worked on putting together wording, and we're having a bit of a challenge on where is the best place to advertise for it, because it's not a normal employment offering. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite everybody either to share the requirements or advise us of a place where it's best to post. Currently, it's going to be posted on our social media, so Facebook and Instagram. So if you see it there, please share. And if you have any ideas where you think it may be possible to be used, we appreciate that. Maybe some of the town's offices, I'm not sure.
Tasha?
Tasha O. McClay, Ward 6. I see postings for positions like this quite often on LinkedIn. But I would also encourage you to exactly what you said on school websites, on our homepage. It's not an employment thing, but it could still be on our main page, and then also through the town's MFRC was a great one they wanted to advertise for us. So some of those places I think would be best.
Thank you, Trish.
I think we had a suggestion from another board at PSBAA. They somehow got former students and they found them at post-secondary institutions, perhaps, that were taking accounting type or related type courses. So I don't know if they have areas where you can post looking for people, or I wonder if our high school principals might know of students who have gone in that direction that might have some suggestions.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Building and maintenance, 8.5.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. We had a meeting on January 11th, and we discussed the design and maintenance of our gender neutral washrooms at Four Winds that are posing some problems with cleaning and just the whole design of them. So I think our operations and maintenance is looking into options, and hopefully we will come up with some creative options to help the students out. We had a discussion on our contracted cleaning service that we have at Sturgeon Heights and at Bon Accord and Lillian Schick, and we were looking into just why we do that and possibly having some options there. And to have more consistency throughout the division with our cleaning. Sturgeon County is having a meeting on January 16th, which would have happened, correct, Chair Dwyer?
That's correct.
Okay. Did
And
you want
just
to
on that,
speak a little bit about that?
yeah, the proposal put forward wasn't totally accepted by the Sturgeon County. So they're back to the drawing board a little bit, but they figure going back to the drawing board, they can come back to satisfy some of the needs of Sturgeon County. We'll see what happens.
Like I said earlier on in my report that we had a joint use in JUPA requirements with the town of Bon Accord and talked about Lillian Schick and the gravel road creating issues with the school and the dust suppression and possibly looking at options, the town possibly looking at options and working with the division to creating a better scenario. And our next meeting will be on February 22nd, and I'm prepared to take any questions.
Tasha?
This is why I should come to the meetings, but since I missed it, could you just quickly explain why do we have different systems for cleaning? Why do we have contracted services for some schools, but not for others?
From my recollection of the meeting, Tasha, so this was done 3 years ago. So that was under a previous board, which maybe you might have been privy to that information, but we can't speak to that. But there was also, from what we were talking about, there was some staff shortages possibly at the time that I wasn't aware of. But we're looking into it and possibly, I think it's working really well with Sturgeon Heights. But like I said at the operations and maintenance meeting, that we as a board want to keep our people within our communities. And this is going against what we want to do as a board. So that's why it was brought up. And so hopefully we'll dive into it a little bit deeper and get more answers.
Yeah, just to comment on that a little bit more, during the COVID times, it was very hard to get staff when it was needed. And at the time it was felt that it was more opportunity in getting a contractor service to serve only where it was a problem getting staff. Now those things have changed and we maybe have to look at that again, but that's in the future here. So. Any questions? Policy Committee, 8.6.
Janine Pequin, Ward 1. So we have 2 policies coming forward in this meeting that the policy committee has taken a look at. And one that our administration is kind of taking a deeper dive. We want to make sure our policies are well fleshed out and that we're not creating undue hardship for our school staff or our admin or when we're putting these policies in. So sometimes some take a little longer because we want to make sure all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So 2 are coming today.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Transportation Committee, we haven't met since the end of December on that, but there's been a lot of discussion. We're looking at all aspects of transportation and how it's compensated, our contractors, and some of our options in the future. As everybody knows, our transportation is funded in a way today that we're having to take out of our regular operational costs of our education system to fund some of our transportation. So we're looking at that whole thing. We're looking at our fees, our choice rider fees, actually all fees, those type of things. And we're looking at working with our provincial government in trying to improve some of the concerns and working with our contractors. And so there's a lot of information being shared right now for learnings and to get our heads around how this really works. There's some options coming forward at our next meeting, which will be on January. I can't remember the date. Sorry. We just booked it. February. What was it? 8th? Okay, thank you. February 8th. And we'll get into some more of that then, but there's a lot going on with transportation. It was one of our main topics with our school councils. And we're really seriously looking hard to work with our contractors to make this work somehow in our provincial government. So there's lots on the go. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. We'll go into reports from special committees and task groups. Alberta School Board Association representative.
That's me again. So I attended Zone 2-3 last week, I think, on Friday. Yeah. So the days, whatever. The advocacy committee for Zone 2-3 is looking at building toolkits for the elections for universal advocacy for all 61 boards. So transportation will probably be huge on that. Just issues at all 61 school boards. So they'll be discussing at the board chairs meeting on January 30th, that toolkit, and then they'll bring it to Zone 2-3. We had a lovely discussion on Council of School Councils and how different things work. Zone 2-3 is committed to best practices kind of sharing. And I thought it was very opportune as we are looking at our Council of School Councils and how to kind of revamp it. So like Elk Island Public does once a month. And so it was the best practices kind of conversation. It was a really interesting thing. And that will be shared in the meeting summary when that comes out. And a reminder that if Sturgeon is looking to put any proposed position statements in, and I know we had talked about one about maybe aging infrastructure, that we need to start working on that because it was the first call for proposed position statements. And yeah, I forward those emails. Joe actually did the last one because he was more on the ball than me. And so the meeting summary will be coming out. And you guys can read that when it comes out.
Thank you. Any questions? Stacy.
Stacey Bugle, Word of. Can I just add one thing that I thought was interesting? They're doing book reviews or book recommendations each month about relevant to governance type of books. So if anybody ever wants to take a look at those, they are in the highlights as well that come out. But there was a report from the ERLC representative, and I think some of the learning resources that are available now to admin, to our schools, to now they're aware of the need to have support for substitute teachers to access. And I just think it's really cool that they're expanding learning on demand. So making sure that there's resources available to everybody in the school world and in education. And I was just really impressed by the report and what's coming out of there. So
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Public School Board Association of Alberta, 9.2.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. An update. We have dates for the April PSBC meetings are the 13th and 14th. If you look in the advocate, the ones they have of this 7th and 8th are incorrect. So it's the 13th and 14th. So the upcoming one in February, which is the 9th and 10th, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend on the 9th during the day. However, the list has come out of who is going to be presenting. And for the dinner that night, our guest speaker is Graham Thompson. So I am juggling my plans so that I can be there because I love Graham Thompson. He's one of my favorite political analysts and speakers. So that is promised to be always, he's a very interesting person to listen to. And just to let you all know that one of the speakers during the day on Thursday is Diana Bacon, and she will be talking about overview of Robert's Rules. And I know some people enjoy her presentations as well. So that's on the Thursday, and Tasha will be representing us that day. And on the Friday, she and I will both be there for the council meeting. So any questions on anything to
Tasha?
Would you mind if I just, okay. So I sit on the professional learning committee for PSBAA. And I thought I would throw it out to our group, but on Thursday, and this will be available online because the PSBC meetings are available online. There's 3 topics I thought might be very interesting for our group. One is similar to ASBA. PSBAA has put together a election readiness package. And so the 5 topics that were chosen by public schools are the 5 topics that will have expanded information on for you to take to parent groups, use yourself, anything you choose. But in the afternoon, Brian Callahan, I think he's going to be presenting before Ms. Bacon, but Brian Callahan is doing 2 sessions. One is on school boundary revamping. So Brian Callahan is a former superintendent for somewhere in the south, near the mountains. And they just revamped their entire boundary system. So he has some tips and tricks on the pitfalls and mostly pitfalls of that. But also he'll be presenting a session on superintendent evaluations and going through the SLQ and basically what you need to know for, because they're all coming. So if anybody was interested, that's sort of the big topics. Stacy?
Is the cost the same if we register online, and would it be worthwhile to register online and can multiple people view it from one space? Because the catchment, the boundaries sounds like I would find that quite beneficial, but I don't know that the
Yes. So the cost, I think the cost is less for the online, but anybody who wanted to sit and we got paid one time, everybody in this room could sit and watch it if they wanted. We actually have done that, so.
And we definitely can arrange to be here. For that, it's better for me, I'll tell you that, because I just go in and out on my internet.
Yeah, so I just thought that those are some topics that are really essential and relevant, thank you, relevant to us. So if you guys are interested, jump online or be in person, whichever.
Okay, thank you. Just on that, before we go off this, Alberta School Board Association does have a chairs meeting on the 30th. And we have our school presentations. I did look at the agenda. I think it'll be okay for me to miss it. But we'll see in the future. I just want to tell you that. Okay. Janine.
And just to add, the spring general meetings this year are in Calgary, not Red Deer. So just keep that in mind.
For both associations.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other on that? New business, 10.1 Sturgeon Public Schools Annual Education Results Report Update. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. You'll see we are seeking approval through motion on this item of business. What occurred, I hope the board was made aware, I'm sorry, that there was a breach through social media regarding the grade 9 PAT writings in June. What was unclear when we brought the information to you about the results is if that breach impacted the results that we were putting in our annual education results report in November. Subsequent to the presentation of the information to you, we received more information regarding the breach. We looked at our exam, and I'll just clarify for the board. For a couple of years, we were allowed, well, going into COVID, then there was no PATs, but then still coming out of COVID, we were allowed to design our own writing schedule for the provincial achievement tests. Previous to that, it's always been set, just like diplomas. Everybody in the province, 9 o'clock on this date, they're all going to write science. But there were a few years when we were able to work schedules that might be better for our local, our local schools. Now, a result of that breach, it's not in this report, but I'm going down this road. So for the trustees, bear with me. Just so you know, PATs have now become set again. So everyone in the province will write on certain dates, and it is absolutely in response to this breach. Coming back to the report in front of you, the specific information about the breach, what exams might be impacted, came out after our report. So Ed Services reviewed our report and the data, and in that review discovered that while the information about the breach had not been provided to administration, the data that we were provided and the data that we presented to you actually had already abstracted the social results from it. So the data remains accurate and did not need to be changed. The recommendation of administration is to add a sentence paragraph here, just clarifying the provincial-wide security breach of provincial achievement tests. You can read it here in the memo, and it is now added to the amended annual results report. Prepared to take more questions about the report, and then we are seeking approval of this amended report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I don't believe a motion is needed on this. Is there a motion actually on this? Okay. I'll need someone to motion what has been presented, please. At the back. Yeah, Cindy.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the amended Sturgeon Public Schools Annual Education Results Report as presented.
As presented. Okay, thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Jonathan, is that it for your report? Okay, thank you. 10.2, policy 130, public interest disclosure, whistleblower protection. Who's going to talk on that? Lisa, thank you.
For the annual review, we did review policy 130. It did go through the policy committee at the last, I think it was last week's meeting. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the date. We did send this policy through to the Public Interest Commissioner's Office for review, and we have incorporated the recommendations. Administration is seeking approval and a motion is required.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on that, first of all? Thank you. A motion, can someone motion that, please? Trish?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve policy 130, public interest disclosure, whistleblower protection, as presented at the January 25th, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Tasha?
So I was just wondering if you could summarize any feedback that you received from the commission regarding this.
Lisa?
The commission actually said that we had a good policy and there was very minimal changes that she would like to see added to the policy that we had in place.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 10 point, we need to vote. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. 10.3, policy 231, student advisory committee. Janine?
I feel like I could talk on this one. So we just kind of cleaned it up. Our old policy was may from time to time establish a student advisory committee. And I think all of the board really believes in the student advisory committee and what they're doing. So we just strengthened it that we shall annually establish one, not when we want. And then we weren't setting meetings till we were back in September, and then it seemed to be a little rushed. So we've changed that. The current year we'll set dates for the next year so that jumping into the new school year, we don't have to get approval and dates, and we can just jump right into our student advisory because they are a big stakeholder for us and we really care about their opinion. And I think just changing this policy just strengthens the board's commitment to the student advisory committee.
Any questions, Stacy?
Stacy Buca, Ward 5. I fully support the changes being made. Just a question I failed to ask in the past and I'm curious about is where does the budget for student advisory come from? Just because it's kind of a unique situation and I know that busing kids around and the meals and all of that does come at a cost. I feel strongly that we should continue to support it. I'm just curious where that comes from.
Liliana?
We currently don't have a budget set in place, but administration will look into it.
Okay, thank you. Shauna?
And I will just clarify, this does come out of the board's budget. This is a board sponsored event, so that's where it currently sits and we'll define it more clearly just because we've added in coming out of COVID to make sure it's clear where it sits in your budget moving forward for 23-24. But that is where it currently sits.
Thank you. Tasha?
I just wanted to thank the policy committee for making these adjustments. This is a really valuable program, and the one thing I do want everybody to know online and in the room is that there has been a clear trickle down effect of this committee. Prior to Student Voice or Student Advisory Committee being part of our division, not a lot of schools had leadership groups or student councils. I think that now resoundingly, the majority of the schools do. And this is a clear example of where governance from the top can impact ground level programming. So I just want to say thank you. I think this is critical that we do this and that we pay proper attention and dedicate proper resources to it. So thank you, Policy Committee.
Thank you. We'll need a motion to accept this as presented. Janine?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve policy 231, Student Advisory Committee as presented at the January 25th, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Uh, 11, unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any notice of motion? Any information? I have one that I forgot about and I just quickly mentioned, I have mentioned it before. At Camilla, they are doing a big production and it's going to be at the Morinville Cultural Center. We had one of those previous as a partnership, I believe, with Four Winds and Camilla. And that was Joseph and Technical Dreamcoat. This one is the Rock of Ages and it'll be in March or April, I believe. No, I might have that wrong. Sorry, May. And they're working on that and they've got over 100 students that are interested in getting involved. So huge thing. Look forward to how that's all going to come out. Any other information? Comments and question period 14.1 from ATA and QP. Okay. Okay. Great. Jace, I see that you have joined us. Anything on student advisory that you could share with us?
Hi, thank you very much, Chair. Can you hear me okay? I know last time we had some mic troubles.
We definitely can hear you well.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank SPSD for the opportunity to do those community student advisory committee meetings. I know from my standpoint, as well as the standpoint of students from around the division, we really appreciate the opportunity to have our voices heard and work with our trustees and top level administration. As noted, you do see in some other schools, things have already started to be come into play and the gears and turning and stuff like that, and things are coming into the works, which is nice to see from collaboration with other schools. From our recent SPSD Student Advisory Committee, it was a very enjoyable one. It was lovely to do it at the Sturgeon Composite High School. It's a very nice facility, so it was nice to do it there. From what we learned just working together, I really appreciated Mr. Conrad's activities as well as the other trustees. It was a very nice and well-run meeting. I know the other students appreciated it, as well as I really appreciated the opportunity to host another one myself or chair another one myself. It's really nice working with students and other young advisors from across the division and getting to hear their feedback. Overwhelmingly, I'd say from our last meeting, it was nice to hear that students would agree they really like working with other schools. If possible, they would like to do more things with other schools going forward. It is definitely enjoyable having sports such as badminton, volleyball, and basketball at the moment be incorporated with other schools in competition and stuff like that. But yeah, there are some ideas that we got and feedback from that meeting that kind of led us to believe that there are lots of other students that feel just being rural schools, you know, we don't all have the numbers to support certain groups or activities or things like that. And it might be a nice idea to incorporate larger numbers by incorporating other schools into some of those groups. So that's something that we can look at going forward, I'm sure. But for the sake of a report, it was just something that we noticed from the meeting, and it was great to work with other students to get that sort of feedback. So yeah, it was once again an awesome opportunity this started this year for our first meeting.
Great, thank you. And I'll just say that as a trustee, I'm just quite impressed at those meetings and lots of value coming from them. Any other questions or comments to Chase? Thank you so much for being on today and giving us a report.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
14.2 community members. Anything, any comments from our community or questions from our community members on today's agenda? Okay, thank you. No media on. Requests for information. Okay, we're going to, I need a motion to go in camera. Tasha,
I will move us in camera.
thank you. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to go in camera. And when we finish in camera, we'll come out and adjourn the meeting. So thank you for those attending and thank you. Just thank you for being on.